Welcome to Real World Peaceful Parenting, a podcast for parents that are tired of yelling, threatening, and punishing their kids. Join mom and master certified parent coach Lisa Smith as she gives you actionable, step-by-step strategies that'll help you transform your household from chaos to cooperation. Let's dive in.
Welcome to today's episode. I absolutely love being with you here each week, and I want you to know how proud I am of you for investing this time in your parenting, your kids, and your family. Well done, you. Well done. Now, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know I try to bring you ideas, tools, coaching, and support that helps you create deep connection and cooperation with your kids. And today I have a special treat for you. I want you to listen in as I talk with one of my clients about setting limits that peacefully stick, boundaries, consistency in parenting, and ultimately how to create connection through setting limits. Yes, connection through setting limits. This is a conversation with Angela, who's a single mom of a very strong-willed, very determined 11-year-old boy. As a side note, Angela's from the UK, so wait till you hear her accent. It's absolutely divine. Angela's been walking on the path to peaceful parenting for a couple years now, and she reached out for support around getting her strong-willed son to get ready in the mornings, which seems to be a daily battle for both of them that leaves them at the end of the mornings wrung out, exhausted, and not sure what to do. I love bringing you these live coaching calls so you can hear the work, how it unfolds. You get a chance to really see the tools put into action and the support that I offer through my coaching. So listen in as I walk Angela through the tools to use with her strong-willed son to peacefully set limits and create connection. You're also going to hear our follow-up conversation 2 weeks later as Angela walks us through the fruits of her work as she realizes that it is through setting limits that she's able to create deep connection with her son. Enjoy. So welcome, Angela. So excited to have you here today and talk about setting limits and rules and versus punishments and how to put these in place with your son. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you, Lisa.
Yeah, I just love you, Angela. And it's been a real pleasure to work with you over the years. And so for everyone who's listening, Angela is a single mom and she has a 12-year-old son who is very strong-willed, sweet as can be, and in the same breath, incredibly strong-willed, does not like to be told what to do. And Angela is working with her son together to set some limits in the house. And I had given Angela a homework assignment to come back to me with her top 3 limits, top 3 things that were incredibly important to her. So this is what we're going to talk about today is 3 things, really 3 values that are important to her and how she can work to set some limits around them and then be in a position to present those to her son, let her know if you choose to do this, then this is what will happen, right? We've talked about this before about setting limits. If you choose to do this, then this is what will happen. And really work with Bo to put the limits in place, to really understand what they are, and then for her to work to be able to enforce them or follow through on them. I think enforce is a little bit too strong of a word, but really to follow through on them. And this is one of the struggles that many of us parents have, is setting the limits in the first place that are fair and equitable, that make sense. And then part 2 of it is committing to following through on them consistently 100% of the time. So we build that trust with our child and we build the trust around the limit. This is certainly the sticky wicket, right, Angela?
Yeah, I feel I definitely have issues on following through consistently. And as well as really, as I had to think about, choosing 3 limits, because there's so many things I feel like I want Bo to do and really having to condense it down into finding what's realistic has been quite a task, to be honest. And sticking to that, not throwing other things on top.
Exactly. And this is what we often do. We make it complicated. We want so much for our kids, right? We want to teach them everything immediately. And oftentimes we want them to pitch in and help out and follow rules and do the right things. And so sometimes setting limits can get very complicated in the sheer volume of limits we have, and then how we want to go about reinforcing them. And this is definitely something I noticed in our previous conversations, is that it can be tempting, or you can fall into the pattern of bouncing all over the place and throwing out too many, changing the rules all the time. I think I see a lot of parents from a place of frustration turn the limit into a threat or a punishment. And that takes away the trust around the limit, right?
Yeah.
When we go into an example of that might be if I tell you that, if you're on your phone after 9 o'clock, you lose your phone the next day. I come into your bedroom, you're on your phone, and I immediately go into snatching the phone out of your hand, yelling at you and telling you you've lost the phone for a week, right? That's degrading the trust that we've built around a limit of, I've committed that if you choose to be on your phone after 9 o'clock, you'll lose your phone the next day. And then I start storming alongside you because I'm dysregulated. And now I'm threatening you that I'm going to take the phone away permanently by saying, you can't handle this. I can't trust you. You're not worthy. We're going to take the phone away. I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. Or that's it. You've lost your phone for a month, right? That degrades the trust. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely see myself, and I'm trying to work on that, because I see myself that even when I put the limit, and, it's obviously a natural response for Bo to try and overstep that limit, that I get very dysregulated. And that's what I'm trying to work on, is I've set the limit. I'm now trying to set the limit and make him very aware of the consequence, and not just saying it once at the beginning of the year, but you're kind of trying to repeat it to him every few days to be like, look, if this is what happens, that will be the consequence. And then when he oversteps it, I'm trying, because I see myself losing my shiz and becoming dysregulated and angry and feeling disrespected. And, and I can really see how that, takes away from the connection, because there's been a few times now in this last few days where I've seen that if I stay regulated and I just, in a calm and normal manner go like, okay, well, that was the consequence. This is now happening, rather than going into fury, he reacts a lot better.
Yes.
So, but it's a process, because automatically there's this feeling of, like, my child's not listening to me. He's disrespecting me. I've said to him, this is the limit, and he's still not adhering to it.
Yeah. There's so many things that I love that you just said that I want to point out. One is, the idea that our kids are going to push back. That's their job, particularly strong-willed kids, right? And I think a lot of us are under the illusion that when we set a limit, because we've said it, because it's important to us, because we really mean it, that they're just going to blindly follow it. And that isn't how strong-willed kids work, right? And so to know, and I think this is one thing you've really learned well, is that he is going to push back, and I need to be prepared for that. And I need to be prepared in a regulated way, because as I keep saying, when he pushes back and you hold the limit and enforce the consequence from a regulated place, it builds trust between the two of you. I do what I say I'm going to do. I can do it without yelling at you. I can do it without being punitive. I can do it without calling you names and screaming at you. No. That builds the trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do in a calm way. And it helps him build the trust in himself. And it builds the trust in the relationship and the trust around the limit.
Exactly. And I have also noticed how, and I the more I'm paying attention to it, is how inconsistent I am with enforcing the same boundary and the same consequence. And it's really something that I'm trying to hold myself to account. And it's quite amazing how difficult that is. And how in the moment, it's like, that's it, the phone, you'll never have the phone again. Or
Right. Yeah. I mean, our habit, especially if this is how we were raised, and this was a big struggle for me too, Angela, learning to set a calm limit that I was willing to follow through on, and then following through on it, because I was raised in a household where when you did something wrong, everybody became angry and loud and punitive. And, that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, a thing that's been really amazing with the positive parenting course, and specifically this that we've been working on with the limits, what I've noticed is that it takes a lot of preparation on my part to consistently prepare myself for how I'm going to react, and also really thinking about the limits, like thinking, okay, what is important to me and what is realistic.
Yes.
Because when I sometimes watch myself, I'm like, I want you to clean your bedroom, and I want you to load the dishes, and I want you to be, and then
I want you to smile and compliment me while you're doing it, and thank me and tell me how much you love me, and you understand this will help you when you're 35. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I wanted to walk into next. So let's go there. So, one of the things that is really important about setting limits is the prep work, right? As the parent. And a couple things that come to mind that you and I have talked about in the past is they're far and few, and they're important, right? You can't have a scroll of 872 limits, right? So you pick the ones that are really important. And I like to limit it to 3 when we first get started. And then the next important thing you ask yourself is, are they realistic and fair, as you said, right? Are they, does the punishment fit the crime, so to speak? Not that I believe in punishing anybody, but, what we don't want to do is be so punitive that the kid gives up, or that they get frustrated, or that they get angry and they rebel. The point isn't in setting a limit, isn't to punish the kid. The point is to teach a lesson. And if we're shaming and punishing and being incredibly punitive, it is really hard for the child at any age to learn the lesson. So the limit, the consequence needs to be age appropriate. It needs to be timely, right? Like, again, back to the example, if you're on your phone after 9:00, all phones get put away at 9:00. You go into your kid's bedroom and it's 9:05 and they're still on their phone, and you take the phone away for a month. You're just asking for a string of bad behavior, right? And does that punishment really fit the crime, right? And that's for every family to decide for themselves. But I like for us to really question. And you mentioned this, that you've really had to do a lot of prep work. And then the other part of it is, am I willing? And this is the most important question we ask ourselves. Am I willing and capable and able to follow through on the consequence? Again, if I take the phone away for an entire month, exactly. I'm punishing myself and the child, and I'm creating a lot of conflict and stress in the family. Am I going to be able to hold out for an entire month?
Yeah, I've noticed that I've previously done that a lot, like, had severe punishments where in the end I then had to, the punishment didn't work and I had to backtrack, or, and I think and I see that a lot as well, within my community. And now I'm watching parenting from a totally different point of view. But I see that a lot. It's like it's the kind of, in the moment, is that threatening thing of just behave otherwise, because you're somewhere and you just want them to behave and cooperate. And then, you, like, the threats come out, you'll never be on the phone again. I'll take the phone away. You'll never have sweets again. And I hear myself now sometimes saying that. And I'm like, but that's not,
right.
This is where the issue then comes in, because then in 2 days we're going somewhere and I'm like, just, okay, I'll give you a chocolate if you can just. So there's a lot of mixed messages that I've come to realize that I have been giving to my son when it comes to consequences and limits. And also I myself am having to get really clear about what are boundaries, what are limits, and which, like, I had an A4 list of limits. And then when you said to me 3, I was like, oh my goodness, okay, I have to really okay, what do I really want him to do? What is important? And how on a daily basis does that look like? So it's been an amazing introspection into also getting to know myself and looking at even just understanding, because I think that I also wasn't very clear on, boundaries and limits and realistic boundaries and limits. I think that's also important, because I think I have this, or I think I see that a lot as well now in my friends, that we have this unrealistic notion of what we want our children. The room must be always clean, the teeth always brushed, never any sugar to be eaten.
Right. No outside influences. They self-regulate on the electronics. Yeah. And that's not that's not the world we live in. Heck, most adults can't self-regulate on their phone, and we're modeling that for our kids. But the other thing is, when we're not clear and consistent with the follow through, that also breaks down the trust in the relationship, because then we become Jekyll and Hyde parents, right? I yell at you and I tell you that, you've lost the phone for a week, or I tell you you're never having sweets again because I walk in and, I brought home a bag of chocolates and you've, eaten half the bag of chocolates in one sitting, and I get dysregulated and I take the chocolates away and I say, Angela, you're never going to have chocolate again. Well, first of all, I don't control that. That is not realistic. And then a week later, it's a holiday in which we enjoy some chocolates. And now I've gone back on my word. And so I damaged the trust in the relationship between the two of us because I'm inconsistent. And I'm inconsistent because I punished from a place of dysregulation rather than setting limits up front when I'm calm and able to be consistent and ask myself questions like, am I really able to enforce? Am I willing to enforce this limit? Do I feel the limit is fair? Is it equitable? Is it reasonable? Is it fair? Can I enforce it? Those are good questions to ask ourselves. And then the next step I want to talk about, and then we'll get into one of your examples and we'll dig into it. The other thing that's really important is that the limit is objective and crystal clear to the other party, right? Keep your room clean is not a limit. It's very esoteric. Your definition of clean and mine might be different. Yours might be everything's picked up off the floor, and mine might be the baseboards have no dust on them. I don't even know if you all have baseboards where you live, but this is the other thing that trips us up as parents a lot, is that in our mind, we know what we mean. Don't eat sweets. Keep your room tidy. Don't over game on your electronics. None of that is objective, right? No cell phone after 9 o'clock is objective. Tell me about that. Elaborate, because wow, okay. I haven't thought of it that way before, but that's true, because very often he says, but I've cleaned it. And I'm like, that's not clean. Right. Because you're a parent with a fully developed prefrontal cortex. You own your home. You care about it. Clean has a completely different definition to you than it has to a 12-year-old boy.
Yes. And I'm also very, very obsessive when it comes to cleaning, for example.
Yes. So I'm often saying to my son, here's the list of chores that need to get done today before you get on gaming. All clothes need to be picked up off the floor. All food needs to be removed from the room. I would like you to make your bed. I don't care how it gets made, but I'd like you to make your bed. And I'd like all clothes in the laundry room to be put away either in the closet or inside the drawers with the drawers completely shut. Now, that's a list that is a yes or no, right? He's either done it or he hasn't. I can go in and eyeball it. And it is, we can both agree whether the clothes are inside the drawers and the drawers are shut. We can agree whether all the dirty clothes have been picked up off the floor and whether there's any food containers in the room. This didn't come naturally to me. I had to work at this in making sure that I am incredibly specific and incredibly objective about exactly what I'm asking to do. The dishwasher needs to be loaded and all the dishes inside the sink need to be in the dishwasher. The cell phone needs to be put in the kitchen on the charging station by 9 o'clock. You have to be in bed, lights out, everything done, lights out by 10:30, right? These are very easy to follow instructions versus be in bed on time. What does that mean? Go clean up the kitchen. What does that mean? I guarantee most adults and most children have very different definitions of what cleaning up the kitchen means.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, wow.
I laugh, Angela, because even my husband and I have very different definitions of cleaning the kitchen. To me, a clean kitchen is everything is washed and either in the dishwasher or in the strainer. All countertops, all are wiped down. The stove is completely cleaned. The floor, might be swept if there's a lot of crumbs. For my husband, it just means everything is either in the dishwasher or in the sink, soaking, as he calls it. And, the countertops may or may not be wiped down. I can't go to bed. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I will. I cannot go to bed if my countertops are not wiped down. Like I can't sleep, So here's my husband and I, 31 years of marriage, and he sleeps like a baby if the countertops are dirty, right? So even we have a different definition. So of course, my son and I are going to have. So if I said to my son, go clean the kitchen, that looks completely different through his young kid eyes than it looks through my eyes as the homeowner who can't sleep without her countertops being wiped out.
Yeah. Wow, I have a lot of thoughts going like, I think this is such an important point because I've never thought about it this way. It makes absolute sense to me. And I think I'm having this, this thought of like, as a parent, I think very often, like I can only speak for myself, I fail to recognize that my child is a person. Obviously I recognize he's a person, but the same kind of detail that I would give a friend, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having to really prepare and like try and understand this underdeveloped brain and what it needs to be able to understand how to do the chores, how much detail does he need? How clear do I have to be? So it's a lot because I thought, okay, I'm just going to write it on a piece of paper once, tell him, and that's it. But it's absolutely more complicated than that. And what you've just said makes so much sense. And in my head, it seems like this aha moment, like, oh, it's so clear. Of course, I would have to elaborate exactly what I expect step by step because, clean your room, make sure you're clean.
Yeah. I was just thinking we have here in America, we have a lot of fast food chains, but we have one called Chick-fil-A. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
no,
they serve little chicken nuggets and fries and it's very popular. And they often hire, it's one of the few places in America, you can start working at, I think 14 or 15. And they often hire young kids. And if you go into a Chick-fil-A, they have tons of 15, 16, 17-year-olds working there, and they're all smiling, or most of them have smiles on their face, and they look like they're enjoying their job. And it makes me wonder, a place like that that's training a 15-year-old brain versus Microsoft, let's say, who typically, most of their workers are college graduate professionals, or many of their workers. The difference between training a 14-year-old on how to make chicken nuggets and fries and bag them up versus training, a professional who's had 4 years of extra college development of their prefrontal cortex. When we're working with our kids and setting limits, we have to be more of the Chick-fil-A trainer than the Microsoft, if just to use an analogy, because they remember very little. They're not 10,000 hours into the chores that we're asking them to do or the limit that we're setting. So we have to keep it simple. Like you said at the beginning, we have to review it with them all the time. I like the idea of writing limits out on a piece of paper, both parents and all kids signing it or the kids signing it. I'm a big fan of posting it on the fridge. So every time the child opens the fridge to get a snack, they're looking at it. It's imprinting in their brain. And, we're objective and we're willing to be consistent 100% of the time. And that's really the foundation of really being able to set strong limits or good limits or solid limits and following through on them. So let's dig into one of yours and take it as an example. So let's pick one. Is there one in particular you really want to work on or do you want me to pick it? What's that?
The screen time, the limit on the screen time.
Okay. All right. So tell me about that. What happens now? Walk me through where the struggle is.
The struggle is that I have to obviously enforce the limit because Bo absolutely has no regulation and will just continue on the screen for 24 hours if allowed.
He's the only kid in the world like that, Angela. I can't believe that. There are people all around the world right now going, girl, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
And so when then the screen gets taken away, obviously there's a reaction. And what I'm trying to do is almost like an earning of the screen time, like first you have to, your room has to be cleaned or you have to put the dishes in the dishwasher. But very often, because I'm like running around trying to work or get things done, rather than, calmly getting regulated and preparing myself in the moment, I then either grab the screen or that's it, react in a furious manner and never really enforce that whole, the screen time has to be earned. And this is, again, we're just having this conversation. I'm really seeing how much preparation I need to put in.
Okay, let me ask you a couple questions to help. Let's see if we can set a limit today and clarify this or at least get us started. So is Bo allowed to, or do you want him to be able to have screen time during school days?
So I usually give him an hour and a half a day. And then I'm like, that's it. But then he's with his friends or his friends come over and then they ask, oh, please, can I just have another? Because my friend, and then I'm like, okay, because then I don't want to be, then I have an issue with sticking to the limit. So, he keeps asking for another half an hour, and I give it to him either because I'm busy and I need to work and I can't, have him disturb me, or his friends are there and, they all want to be on the screen together. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's been 3 hours on the screen. And then I get angry, and then I'm like, that's it, no screen time tomorrow. So I would ideally prefer in the weekdays, I mean, I have to be realistic. So I'm going to say an hour. Ideally, I'd like there to be no screen time, but I have to be realistic. So an hour a week, but no later than 6, because that's the other thing I've noticed. When he then is on the screen, more towards the evening, then he can't go to bed. And then it becomes this whole thing where then it's like it's like 10 o'clock and he's still awake. And I'm like, and then I get dysregulated because I'm like, you need your sleep and I want to go to sleep and I have things to do. So it becomes this spiral then.
What I heard you say, Angela, is on school days, you'd like Bo to have 1 hour of screen time and off all screens by 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. And what are you going to do? Does anything need to be done before he gets the hour of screen time, like homework completed or chores? I don't care what you pick. If you're flexible about that, that's fine. Or is it work better if homework's done first before he has the hour of screen time?
Definitely homework, but the homework is not so consistent. So there isn't always homework. So I would say if there is homework, that has to be done before. And if, with the room now, I've said, okay, once a week, I want the room cleaned. Like yesterday, he cleaned it spotless.
Okay, we're not bringing cleaning the room into this. This is where things get cattywampus. So we're doing homework has to be completed if there is homework done. Okay, so the limit is you get 1 hour of screen time on school nights, no screen after 6 o'clock, and the hour can start after homework is done.
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you able and willing to make sure that at the end of the hour, you're paying attention and you're getting him off the screen time. Because what's not going to work is Monday night, he does it for an hour. You're consistent because you're all fresh and it's the beginning of the week. And then Tuesday night, he gets 2.5 hours because you got stuck on a Zoom call, or a neighbor walked over and chatted with you in the backyard, or whatever happened. And then Wednesday night, a friend comes over. So he has an hour from 3 to 4, let's say. Then the friend comes over and you give them another 2 hours while you're cleaning out closets or food prepping or doing your own work. And next thing you know, he's had Monday night, 1 hour, Tuesday night, 2.5 hours, Wednesday night, he got 3 hours. And now Thursday night, you want to go back to the 1 hour.
Yes, this is where I am going to have to hold myself accountable, regardless of how uncomfortable it's going to get, and really stick to it.
Yeah, and it's hard because sometimes we want to use it as a babysitter. Sometimes we want to give in. Sometimes we want to, but Lisa, he's having such a good time. And I'm not saying you can't ever stretch the rules, but in the beginning, we have to build trust around this and that mom is serious. So in the beginning, we have to be willing. And this is a good gut check, because if you feel like, you know what, an hour's not enough, I'm not going to get anything done, he's barely going to get into it, we're going to have a battle. This is the point at which you really sit down and visualize. Can I see myself Monday through Friday after an hour of screen time, putting down what I'm doing and engaging with him? Maybe we make dinner together. Maybe we go for a walk. No, Lisa, an hour feels like the right amount of time. Or maybe you're like, wow, that he's going to push back. That's not going to work. We're going to have World War III. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I feel like 2 hours would be a good amount for him. It's good for him. It's good for me. That's like every day from 4 to 6, basically. He gets home from school at 3 o'clock. It gives him an hour to get homework done. Then I'm going to give him from 4 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to put it away for the night. I'll be done with my work and we're going to spend the evening together. This is part of the process of not just picking something and going with it, but really visualizing, can I see both of us being successful with this limit?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not as straightforward, is it? As just picking something, and because it then fails. It's
right. It's basically, looking at fantasy versus reality, right? So does this feel realistic? Does it feel doable? Am I willing to follow through? Does this feel like we're both going to win and be cooperative? Now, I'm not suggesting you go from an hour to 7. And I don't even, it doesn't matter to me, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I want it to work for you and Bo, but I'm just trying to illustrate this is the point where you gut check yourself and you go, wow, does an hour feel good or not?
Yeah, I'm gut checking. I think maybe an hour and a half is more realistic.
Okay, I like that. So we're going to do 90 minutes after homework's done with the agreement of no screen time after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So now the other step in this is the realization that you're going to have to be the timekeeper. He's not going to be. He doesn't want to keep time. He doesn't want to get off. He doesn't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. Even if you tell him to set a timer, the way the screen time works. So you're going to need to set a timer. And maybe the limit is, I'm going to give you a 5-minute warning. I'm going to give you, I'm going to let you know your time's up, and I'm going to give you a 5-minute grace period. And if you choose not to get off the gaming or the screen, you use the word screen, so I'll use your word. If you choose not to get off screens after 90 minutes, then the consequence will be X.
Yeah.
Right? But the language is important that you communicate to Bo. He is in control here. As a strong-willed kid, as we've talked about before, the number one thing they want is to feel in control. So what we're saying here is not, and this is important to the people listening, it's not, Angela, if you this, then I will that. It's Angela is in charge here. Angela, if you choose not to get off the gaming, then you will lose screen time the next day. I'm just going to make that up for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good, I like that one.
So you're buying tomorrow's screen time by following the rules today, and you are in complete charge of that. This is so important that we present it in a way that the strong-willed kid can hear it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I give my son an allowance every week for gas and food and whatever. And if he isn't lights out by 10:30, if lights are not out by 10:30, it costs him $20 on his allowance. We're both very clear on this. It's very measurable. It's not, I'll take money away from you. It's $20. So he knows exactly how much it's going to be. And, it's funny because a couple nights ago, he had something to do. And I said, hey, if lights aren't out by 10:30, and he goes, you know what, Mom, I understand that. But tonight, I'm just going to have to lose the $20. I forgot I had this to do. And I need to get it done before school in the morning. And I realized the consequence and I'm willing to pay the price. And I was like, okay, $20 off. And he understood it and he was willing. And we can communicate this way because there's a lot of trust and a lot of consistency around the limits.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my aim, to get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I realize I have to be consistent. But the way you phrased it, that's great. I'm going to write it down and just keep repeating it to him as well. That this exactly in detail, and start with those 3. You're absolutely right, because otherwise it's just too many, actually.
Yeah. And we don't want to bring cleaning the room once a weekend and confuse it. And then you've given me this directions that I can't follow, right? It's literally, these are like directions, right? You're going to go to First Street and make a left. And then you're going to go to Main Street and make a right. You don't want to be like, well, you're going to go 150 yards to the clock tower, due north, and then make a westwardly turn. I don't know I can't follow that. I can't follow those directions. So super clear, 90 minutes on school days, after homework's done and before 6:00. And then you're going to give them a 5-minute warning, an on-time warning, and a 5-minute grace period. And if he's not off now that's 15 minutes. And you want to point this out to him. So whatever he's doing, he's got 15 minutes from the first warning to wrap it up and get off to buy himself his pass, if you will, or his ticket to screen time tomorrow. And the other thing you want to act when there's going to come a day where he's going to flub it up, right? He's not going to get off. You're going to give him the 5-minute grace period. You leave the room, you come back in, he's still on it. You want to stay really regulated. Like, hey, buddy, it's not that big of a deal. Today's Monday. You don't have it on Tuesday. You'll get it back on Wednesday. You want to support him. Right? You want to believe in him that he can be successful. You don't want it, well, this is all your fault. You lost it. I gave you a warning. I told you, and you just didn't listen. You just pushed the limits. You just can't follow through. You don't do what I tell you. I can't believe this. You don't want to do that. You want to give him confidence that this too will pass. Because remember, we're not punishing. We're not harming or taking our anger out on him. We're teaching them that these rules are to be followed. And when they're followed, you get the ticket to gaming the next day. And when they're not followed, you lose the privilege. And it's all super calm and regulated. We don't need to attack their character, storm alongside them, or get dysregulated while we're enforcing the consequence.
Yeah, that's a very important point. And I think that's where the importance of working on the soothers and staying in the higher brain, because I saw this today. I requested for the dishwasher. It was supposed to be done last night, and I just stayed calm. And I was like, look, before you do this and this, that dishwasher has to be packed. And I just, in this tone of voice, and then it was done. And I was quite surprised, actually, because it's the first time I've put this in place now. Okay, you pack the dishwasher. But before, when in the past few days, when I've tried to get him to do it, and it would, like you said, rather than being his ally, I would become the enemy. And then it just becomes a very unbearable power struggle.
Yes. Yes. If I lose the privilege of screen time, I'm already upset. I'm disappointed in myself. I'm upset. I'm sad about losing it tomorrow. I don't need my parent piling on either to my bad choices or attacking my character. It is not helpful, and it isn't necessary to point out the obvious, how I've already screwed up. Instead, if you say to me, it's okay, well, you'll get through it. I understand you're upset. You'll pay your dues, and we'll live to have screen time another day. It helps me stay regulated and build the trust around the limit and not get completely dysregulated or lined up against the punishment. Again, the goal here is to teach Bo to follow the rules. The big picture, the really big picture, is to teach our kids to follow the limits when they're set, because this is how the world works. There are natural consequences in adult life. And at the end of the day, a part of this is about teaching him to regulate the 90 minutes of screen time. But the bigger part of this is teaching him that when limits are set, he has a choice whether he's going to follow them or not. And there are consequences to following rules, and there are consequences to breaking rules. And that is an important, that teaches our kids respect of rules, when to push back. It teaches them how to take responsibility. It teaches them about consequences. It teaches them critical thinking. It raises their emotional intelligence. There's a lot at work here, And so when we stay calm, when we're helping them learn to decide whether to follow rules or not, we build trust in the relationship and trust around the limits that we've set.
Yeah, this is great. I'm looking forward to this practice.
Yeah. So here's what I want you to do to wrap this up, Angela. I want you to take this one limit, 90 minutes, school days, after homework's done.
Noting it down.
Yep. No screen time after 6 o'clock. I'm going to give you a 5-minute warning. I'm going to tell you time's up and a 5-minute grace period. And if you continue to game after the 5-minute grace period, then there's no screen time the next day. And I want you to take that one simple limit and just put it in place. Introduce it, talk with Bo about it, write it out. You both sign it, paste it on the fridge, the ice box, and then follow it. And just stick with this one limit until you get it under your belt, and then bring another one in. Part of this is just you getting in the swing of it, getting him in the swing of it, you guys building that relationship with each other and around it, you working on being consistent. It's much easier to be consistent with one limit than 14. So what I want you to do, Angela, is put this limit into place, and then we're going to have another call in 2 weeks. You're going to come back to the call and share with me what worked, what didn't, how it's going, what it was like for you, what it was like for Bo. And we'll have part 2 of this where we have a chance to follow up with you. Sound good?
Great. That sounds amazing. I'm actually really excited about it now.
Perfect.
New challenge for myself.
Yes. The setting limit challenge. Maybe the setting limit challenge. I love it.
Challenge. Yes.
Right? Yes.
That's great.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
So we're back with Angela having a conversation about setting limits and boundaries. It's been a couple weeks, and it gives us a beautiful opportunity to follow up with Angela, hear about her progress, check in on what's going on with her and her son, and take the next step in setting limits that peacefully stick. So welcome, Angela. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, give us an update. It's been a couple weeks, so tell us how it's going. Or not going. It's all good.
So it's been interesting. I feel I've succeeded 50% of the time, which I think for me is quite a lot. And I've definitely gained more insight into my issues around consistency and the consistency of putting limits.
Great. 50% of the time is a major step forward. I mean, and it is worth celebrating and patting yourself on the back. There aren't many things that we do as humans that we have a 50% improvement out of the gate. So tell us a little bit about the improvement piece.
Yeah. And what you just said there is really important to give some perspective, because at the beginning, it was going really well. And then it was kind of like I wasn't being consistent, and I was going into that same loop of being really hard on myself. And then I just realized I was like, I really had to drill that mantra, progress over perfection, into my mind. And it kind of helped me because as well, I had to keep at the back of my mind that the connection with Bo is more important than me trying to enforce any limit. And again, when we were connected, he was just so much more cooperative. And
say that again. Say that again.
When we were connected, he was just so much more cooperative. Oh. And I want to add that in the moments that we were connected, he, out of his own, I just said that once, and now out of his own, he is just unpacking and packing the dishwasher. So that's like an added bonus that's happened.
Well, that's the essence right there. That is the essence, Angela, and you know this, of what I teach. Yeah. That connection leads to cooperation. Right. And not 100% of the time, because no human cooperates with another human 100% of the time. But the odds are in your favor, or the numbers are so much higher when there's connection. And, I say all the time, you can't mandate cooperation. You can mandate compliance, which is what many parents are trying to do. Right. We're trying to mandate compliance out of our soldiers that we call children. And when we flip the lid and we focus on the connection first, not as the only thing, but first, then the cooperation naturally follows, right? And what you're telling me is that you've spent time prioritizing the relationship over the behavior in that exact moment. The behavior is still important. We still want the dishwasher unloaded, right? Let's use that example. We still want the dishwasher unloaded. We want our kids to participate. We want them to do chores. We want them to do what we ask. Unloading the dishwasher is important, but it's not more important than the relationship and creating the connection, which ironically, when the connection is created, leads to your son unpacking the dishwasher voluntarily or with cooperation or on his own.
Exactly. And this is where I really, because I had some moments where I would go into my old way of parenting and just, because it was with a screen. But what I also saw, if sometimes, I give a bit more leeway, because it's like, because for me also, the one thing that I've noticed is at Bo's age now, it's really difficult to find things for us to do together that we both enjoy. And so watching like funny episodes or series together is something he loves to do with me, and when he goes like, oh, can we watch something? And I'm like, you've already had your hour and a half. No, I'm taking away from that from that connection of us sitting together, laughing about it, snuggling in bed. And so there's been moments where I've had to, and I've become quite good, thanks to like really putting the work in of regulating myself, where I'm going like, okay, this is the moment now. What am I choosing? Am I choosing, like the fact that you've used your screen time and that's it, you don't get more, and he's going to storm off and be upset? Or am I choosing, okay, for today and then tomorrow? But then I also have these, I say to him, okay, we're going to go over the screen time today, but then tomorrow you get a bit less. And then he's okay with that, but then we have moment of connection where we're watching something together and we're connecting, we're laughing together, and we go to bed, both of us feeling good, feeling happy, feeling connected. So it's like, and I'm really retraining my brain into this way of being now with him.
Yeah, training your brain into peaceful parenting and connection. And you gave us a beautiful example. I just want to talk about this for a minute. You gave us a beautiful example of what it means real time to value the relationship and the connection over the behavior, right? What you just told me is that my son connects through these silly videos.
Yeah.
And, what you told me is, do I love them? No, I don't love them. But I recognize that I need to connect in ways that are meaningful to him, and it would be easy to say, you've already used up all your screen time. We're not going to watch that. I don't know why you watch that. That's silly. I don't want to watch that. No, you can't do that. You've used up your screen time today. You've used up your allotment. And in no way is that going to feel like acceptance, respect, and connection for your son. So instead, you said, oh, he likes this. He likes watching these. He likes snuggling in the bed, watching these silly videos, short videos together. I can do this to connect with him and still hold the boundary of we're going to borrow some screen time from tomorrow. And I can present it in a calm way. I can set this limit in a calm way that leads to connection.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. It leads to connection.
It does. It's amazing. And then he does the next day. He's like, I know. In the morning, he tells me, I know I'm not getting my screen time today because we used it yesterday, and it's amazing. And sometimes I do notice when I'm, example, like when I have PMS, I find it a lot more difficult to get into my higher brain. But it is amazing to see and to just see, the dishwasher was I was so gobsmacked. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is like a bonus, and I just mentioned it in passing, and it's something he's doing. So also I think from him, he's recognizing, the fact that I am, connecting with him and that I'm letting, the screen time slide. So this is him doing his part as well in that sense, and It's really amazing to see.
You're meeting each other halfway and you're respecting what's important to him as much as he's respecting what's important to you, and you're modeling respect. You may not realize that, but you're modeling respect. I respect that this is important to you. And I can see that it's a piece of the connection puzzle. I may not always be able to do it, but in this moment, I can connect with you this way. And then tomorrow, he's putting the dishes away not because he wants to, not because he's excited about it, but because there's been a level of respect built, and it's two-way.
Yeah.
Respect is, it's a two-way street with our kids. And as you practice this more and more and more, this will become a natural part of your relationship.
Yeah. And this is what I'm excited about, because I think, for me, also the realization that I'm having with this process is like, he's a human being. And also throughout these 2 weeks, very often I've asked myself, okay, how would I treat my friends? Because I think, what I've noticed about myself and like I'm sure a lot of us parents have this, that we don't really think of our children as whole human beings, autonomous human beings. They're just kind of our children, and we tell them what to do, and they, have to follow those orders, and we expect things from them. But actually, like, reminding myself continually, he's a human being. Like, how would I treat, for example, my friends or someone who is equal to me? So that's also actually helped me a lot to, in those moments, be like, okay, relax, connect.
Yes. And I would say, recognizing that our kids are human beings with free will and opinions and ideas and thoughts is part of valuing the relationship over the behavior, right?
Yeah.
It's that piece of the puzzle. And when it clicks for us as parents, when we really get it, and then we set about to have our actions reflect that, it's a game changer in the relationship, because I'm recognizing that you are your own soul here to have your own experience. I'm recognizing that you're not a robot that's going to do everything I tell you to do the first time, nor do I really want that. None of us really, really, really want to raise robots, because then they're going to be robots out in the world doing what other people tell them the first time. But it is recognizing that you are a human, and that I want to build trust and respect between us. I have to do my part by connection. And it might mean watching a silly video snuggled in bed one night that you don't really want to watch because there's 8,000 other things to do, like laundry and dinner prep and returning emails and getting back to people and relaxing and self-care and, all these other things. But this is important to him. This is how he connects. So I can set the boundary of, hey, you've used all your time today, so we'll borrow out of tomorrow. And I would love to connect with you for 15, 20 minutes watching some silly videos together to build that connection, respect, and trust. Angela, it's just the perfect, I think we should just end right here because I think it's the perfect ending to the story of setting limits and how connection can come. And this is what we're going to name this podcast episode is Connection Can Come from Setting Limits. And you've taken us on an absolutely beautiful journey of how to do this. So thank you for being our teacher. Thank you for showing us the way. We are grateful for the work you put in and for the example you set for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for all the work you do to have supported me to get to this point. This is
my pleasure. Yeah, I feel blessed our paths crossed.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much for listening today. I want to personally invite you to head over to thepeacefulparent.com/welcome and sign up for my free Peaceful Parenting mini course. You'll find everything you need to get started on the path to peaceful parenting just waiting for you over there at www.thepeacefulparent.com/welcome. Can't wait for you to get started.
Thanks for listening to Real World Peaceful Parenting. If you want more info on how you can transform your parenting, visit thepeacefulparent.com. See you soon.